Hello and welcome to Default Profitable, the show where we dive deep into real strategies behind starting and building consistently profitable businesses. Whether you're a founder, a sales leader, or a curious builder just starting to dream, you should be able to use this podcast as a toolkit to create profits as a default rather than just a lucky outcome. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton. Today, my guest is Dave Gulas. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Great to be here.
Hey, we haven't really had that much time to talk or meet each other. Before we jump into your business, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm president and co-founder of EZDC 3PL. We provide warehousing, transportation, fulfillment services for e-commerce brands. We've had that company for just about 3 years. Prior to that, I had 20 plus years in the pharmaceutical medical industry as a sales leader and executive. And yeah, beyond that, yeah, I don't know if you want to know more about me or
Yeah. So
personally.
where do you live?
Yeah, I live in Michigan. Yeah, Oakland County, Michigan, and yeah, married, 6 kids.
Ooh,
Yeah, a bunch of teenagers right now. So doing that, and beyond that, I just enjoy active lifestyle. Love to exercise and eat clean and be out in nature, and I work a lot, and yeah, here we are.
perfect. 6 kids is a lot. I've got 3, and that's a lot. So,
Yeah.
uh, congratulations. That's actually the coolest thing ever.
Oh, thank you. And also I host a podcast too. I don't know if we were going to touch on
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
Yeah, yes.
What's your podcast?
It's called Beyond Fulfillment. So I've had that just over 2 years. We've published 212 episodes, I think, at this point, and we interview
Nice.
a wide variety of entrepreneurs about what the journey is really like, not just the Facebook version, but kind of the ups, the downs, the pivots, the not so glamorous side that the people don't often see on Instagram.
Well, and that's really how this podcast got started because I work with a lot of young tech founders, and I would say, "So, what's your business plan?" And they'd be like, "Well, we're going to get an investor. We're going to lose all their money. Then we're going to get a bigger investor. We're going to lose their money. We're going to get a third investor. We're going to lose their money. But by the time we lose the third investor's money, we're going to be ready to sell the company. We'll all get rich." I'm like, "That's not a business plan. That's terrible." So that's a big piece of this is for new or aspiring business owners to be able to pick up some lessons about, hey, how do you get rolling? Where do you start? What do you learn? Sounds like your podcast's doing kind of the same thing.
Yeah, the genesis of it starting is when I was out on the founder journey, it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I knew it would be hard, but I always had the attitude, I'll figure it out. And, had a lot of challenges. And I found the biggest source of learning and help was conversations I had with other entrepreneurs. So one day the idea just came to me, said, if you started a podcast and made these conversations public, the audience could benefit. It would help this other entrepreneur. It would help you get exposure. It would be a true win-win. And I knew nothing about podcasting and just started with over Zoom with no equipment and just kept doing it. And yeah, now 2 years later, yeah, here we are.
There you go. So let's talk about your business. So when did it start and why did it start?
Yeah, so it started November of 22 officially. We were getting everything ready a couple months prior to that, but that's when we launched. And it started because, in the pharmaceutical industry, where me and my business partner have operated for a long, long time, on the secondary market, uh, it's a it's a very high touch customer service environment that's required to even survive because you're dealing with medicine that's going out to pharmacies nationwide and everything's urgent, everything has to go overnight, and things go wrong literally all the time. So just solving problems on the fly, being available, responding fast is just part of the job. So we're looking for another vertical to get into, and we knew several e-commerce companies that were having problems with their 3PL. And I don't know if I should explain what a 3PL is, maybe for the audience or for you, in case people don't
Yep.
know.
Go
So,
ahead.
yeah, so a 3PL is third-party logistics provider. So that's where if you have a product that you're selling online or into retail and you don't want to rent a warehouse and manage staff and do all that yourself, there's a whole industry where you can just outsource that, rent space in a warehouse, and These companies will do your fulfillment, connect to your Shopify, offer a wide variety of additional value-added services, just depending. So it's a big industry. There's over 10,000 of them in the U.S. right now, and so we knew these e-commerce brands that were having problems with the 3PL, with lack of response, orders not shipping on time, just poor service overall. And we looked at that and we said, our brand of customer service would be perfect for this industry because there seems to be, at least from what we're seeing here, a lot of complacency, and that would be a great way to stand out is giving that go the extra mile service, particularly for emerging brands that maybe don't have big volume right away where they're shipping 10,000 orders a month, and maybe they're on the ascent and they're climbing, but they need a reliable logistics provider to get to that next level. And oftentimes they're maybe shunned, or they're treated like second class, or just like a number by these bigger box providers that are only looking for the bigger accounts.
So when you started this in November of '92 or November of 2022,
22.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. Um, how long before November were you actually planning?
Probably like July.
Okay.
July. Yeah, so we got it together pretty quick. And again, we launched really before we were ready, but we just like let's launch. And I had are you for okay. I even had some beginner's luck where the very first lead I got, I actually closed. And prior to that, I've been in sales my whole life, so I don't know if that was just like a sign, hey, like something to keep me going, because thereafter it got a whole lot harder. But I did actually close the very first lead I got, like within a month, right? So we had our first
Nice.
customer, not really knowing anything, and a whole lot more to learn. But yeah, we took a few months. Really, we were working with a consultant to learn the industry because from pharma, there's logistics involved, right? So we thought we knew logistics just because it's buying and selling inventory and shipping stuff. And but once we started a logistics company, we realized how much we didn't know. And, it's been a lot of learning on the fly thereafter. But yeah, we've come a long way in 3 years for sure.
So typically, I think we're on episode 160-ish. I ask people, you know, there are 3 things that everybody says that you have to have. The first is you gotta have 6 months savings, right? I'm sure that you had that. The second is you have to have a big strategic plan. You probably had that. And the third is a deep understanding of what people are actually going to pay you for. And obviously you had that. Um, which of those 3 was probably the biggest challenge for you?
I mean, say the deep understanding of what people will pay you for. What was the second one?
A strategic plan, a well-developed strategic plan. And
Well,
the first one was 6 months of savings minimum.
yeah, I think the biggest problem was the strategic plan. We had what we thought was the right plan, but once we got in there, I mean, we had to pivot and make all kinds of changes and mistakes. And I mean, that I think was the biggest, and we're still evolving and growing, and still tweaking the plan. But there's been so much we've learned in those 3 years. But I think that was the biggest, um, I don't even like surprise. I mean, for me especially too, right? Because I'm the face of the company. But yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge, was the plan had to it didn't completely go out the window, but it changed drastically from what we originally thought it would be.
So, and now it's probably unfair, but I will tell you that I have yet to run into a business that says, "Yes, we had 2 of those 3." Right? Everybody's like, "Well, we had some savings, but we had no idea what our plan was, and we didn't really understand what people would buy from us." So, it sounds like you might have been a little bit ahead of the other people.
Yeah, well, I had other income too, right? So you know what I mean? It wasn't like this had to pay all the bills from day one. So we knew it was going to take time to breathe and grow and whatnot. Um, and then yeah, we had we had an understanding of what people would pay for, but that too is like there's you just so much you don't know until you do it, and it's a uh it's a competitive industry and it's dynamic, meaning the landscape of the supply chain 3 years ago is drastically different from what it is today. And then, just as an example, the tariffs, right? Like that kind of came out of no, that can turn everything upside down, as well as all sorts of other issues that can happen out of nowhere. So you're never like, it's not like you can be prepared for everything. You really have to be confident in your abilities to adapt to whatever the market throws at you. That's the way I like to look at it. And we certainly were confident, because from the farm industry too, it's the same thing. There's all sorts of things you don't see coming, surprises, law changes, new regulations, new shortages, new whatever. And that's just part of the job. You have to adapt and deal with it. So we're used to dealing with unexpected challenges from that. So, regardless of what came up or what mistakes we made, we were confident we would figure a way to get through it.
So you've mentioned it, you've used the phrase "learn" a bunch of times. I mean, what are some of the things that you had to learn to run your business that surprised you?
Oh boy. Well, so the first one is like from the pharma industry, right? It's a very kind of traditional B2B sales like segment of it that we're in. So, everyone knows who the customers are. You can buy the list. You're cold calling. You're competing with a bunch of people selling the same commodity, but you develop relationships. You figure out what your strategic advantage is, and you can succeed that way. You can do very well without maybe posting content and doing the online thing and being out there visible as as a content creator, so to speak. Whereas when I got into logistics, like the first trade show I went to pretty early on, I was blown away at how big these other companies were, the type of presence they had online, how everyone knew who they were. I guess somehow in our naivete, like we thought we'd be able to just call on companies the same way as pharma and not and maybe buy leads through the lead channels and that sort of thing, and that would be sufficient. So I quickly realized that I would have to be visible and to be able to be found, because people don't typically move warehouses that often. Um, you're not just going to call them all at the right time. You need to be out there kind of with an omnipresence to have people find you, especially as a new company in a crowded industry that's new to the industry that people maybe aren't going to believe in right away because you don't have any reputation in that industry. So I immediately had to, prior I was well known within my industry, but broadly, I was basically invisible online. I wasn't posting content. I wasn't doing anything on social media. So I immediately had to get on LinkedIn and start posting every day. Quickly thereafter, I started the podcast. That's been a huge lead generation tool. And that part of our marketing has evolved considerably over the last 3 years, but I still that's been one of our biggest advantages, because so many companies, maybe they have bigger marketing budgets and they do things a different way, but they operate as faceless, nameless brands, and that's what allowed us, I think, to really compete against some of these bigger players, is having an actual founder that's visible, that's posting content, that's out there that people can know, like, and trust before ever even speaking to them, just based on the social media content.
Yeah, that's interesting because most people, um, they don't think about the table stakes of a presence online and personal brand. It's esoteric and theoretical, and you just ran into the buzzsaw of reality there, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that and then yeah, just so many other challenges that that come up with things you don't know, and really till you go through these experiences and make the mistakes. I mean, I feel like that's the best way to learn. And it's humbling too, right? As on this journey where, even though coming into it, I thought, yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll be tough, but no big deal. And you realized it's a lot harder than you thought it was, and you really have to really have resilience to get through some of these tough times.
And and I'm gonna throw this out there because when I opened my business, my 2 older kids were getting ready to go to college, and they were not willing to accept the, "Hey, how about a different college because dad doesn't wanna pay for the big state university," right? So your kids rely on you making good decisions and learning quickly. And you got 6. I only
Mhm.
had 3.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
so
that's
what
It's just, yeah. I mean, I don't know, right? It's well, one of them's older, 22, and from a previous relationship, so he's not in the house anymore. But the other five, we had 5 in 5 years. So,
Oof.
yeah, right now they're seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th grade. So, I mean, it's been a complete just, it's been nuts for so long. I guess you just kind of get used to that,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, I got a buddy with 8. I don't know
oh,
how you do 8. I struggled with 3. So so typically, uh, people start a business and they're at one or the other end of a spectrum. So one end of the spectrum is totally passionate about the business, really intellectually engaged, challenged, and interested. And the other is, hey, there's an economic opportunity here. We can make some money. We should do this. Which end of the spectrum were you closer to?
well, I'm so I never probably would have thought of that I would have had a logistics business, right? I've never really been
Yeah.
passionate about logistics, so to speak, right? I've always been passionate about sales. Like my entire adult life, even in my teenage years, I was always in sales. I always did well at it. It was always something that could provide an above average income. So I've always been passionate about that. And so I think my role within the company too is primarily the marketing and the sales and the face of the company. So within that aspect, I'm passionate about it. And so we saw a lot more stable, long-term, viable economic opportunity for this industry than we did within our experience of the pharmaceutical world was. So that's, I mean, I guess there was an element of both, but I would say I'm certainly passionate about sales, and now that I can sell something that I helped create, I mean, that for me is like, a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah. What when you look back, what's a thing that you wish you knew when you started?
Oh, um, you
I mean,
know,
you've thrown a bunch out, but
yeah, I mean, I probably still just how much work and effort and time it was going to take to really get the right type of customers. Um, I guess and again, right, maybe being in sales for so long and doing well, I was always used to, you make a sale and that's good, and you could always make sales. And I could make sales, but I didn't realize too, right? Like you don't really realize who the right customers are until you bring in the wrong customers. So I had
oh,
you know I had to go through that learning experience. So it's really taken us time to really kind of figure out who we are and really start just not settling for anything. I guess, yeah, you've probably heard the quote, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
yep.
That's really where we are, and it took a minute to get to that point, and it took a lot of painful experiences and bringing in the wrong customers. But I mean, that's really where we are, and it's just that's probably what I wish I would have known the most starting out is to understand that. But sometimes too, you have to go through the experience before you learn the lesson, right? And that's okay.
So you you mentioned the wrong clients, which is interesting because I think that my belief is in business, what you say no to is far more important than what you say yes to. And learning how to give somebody a good no is super important. Can you be like generically specific? Like, I don't want names of people or anything, but can you talk about some of the wrong clients that you landed that you wish you hadn't?
Yeah, I mean, just some where logistics is all about efficiency. And so, just people that had manual workarounds, even if it was bigger volume that was advantageous, just manual workarounds that aren't efficient and aren't really something that we want to have in our operation, and just saying yes to it and just putting the onus on my team to figure it out without really being sensitive to what's best for them, and their workload and their sanity, I guess. And then even just a massive client that we landed that we totally weren't ready for that. But I knew that, and I knew that. But like the sales guy in me was like, how am I supposed to say no to this type of volume? I was like, we'll figure it. And again, it was still hindsight. I'm still glad we took because we learned a lot and we were able to leverage that for some other opportunities. And even though it ultimately didn't work out in the end, I mean, it taught us a lot, and we ended up actually kicking them out. Um, but again, it was probably not the right dynamic either. But again, right, I was just kind of uh, you know, enticed by the sales volume and said, how are we not, we need to, we'll figure it out. We're not ready, but this will get us ready. And that was just, it didn't work out in the end, but again, lesson learned. So it's just those type of things where, especially as like, I've always been aggressive, right. And ambitious and wanting to, top line motivated. So like as a founder, right, like that's good, but at the same time, you have to temper that. But and I guess so I had some early experiences to where that just didn't work out, and now I'm a lot more, I guess, experienced in saying no where it makes sense. And I say no all the time to stuff, and it's
Yeah.
fine, and it's great. And it's funny too because it's hard to understand that before you get to that point, but it's like saying no attracts the right yeses, it seems like, to where
Yes.
maybe that doesn't show up until you're willing to say no. And sometimes I guess I couldn't see that until I went through these other experiences.
Yeah. All right. So if you were to go back, if 2025, Dave, was to go back to 2022 November, night before your business opens, you say, "Hey, look, everything works out. By the way, here's the thing that you need to do first." What's the first thing a new business owner should do when they walk in on the first morning?
Ah, man, like again, it's hard. Like as many mistakes as we've made, if you said what would I change, I probably wouldn't change anything because if I changed something, we wouldn't be to where we are today. And I really like where we are today. Right. But I mean, even a bigger mistake too was just being way too, you know, relying like not having enough resources in place early enough. Right. Before maybe like like put relying on people to do too much and basically having them kind of break under the pressure was definitely a mistake. But if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have the team we have in place, I guess, because when things finally broke, I realized we had to go out and get some more expensive talent. It all worked out perfectly. So, but again, right? Like there's so many lessons you learn, and I don't know. I've always, even in my life too, I've always kind of had to go through those experiences. So I don't regret even the mistakes because they've led us to where we are.
Well, and that's the that it probably early in the cycle of this podcast, I would ask people, "What's the biggest mistake?" And pretty much everybody's like, I can't back out of the mistakes because they made me." But if we can get people to focus on one thing, and it sounds like your thing was make sure you're managing everybody's capacity. Like,
Ye- Yeah,
don't try to get people to do more than they can.
that's a good way to put it. Or just having like don't have the wrong person. I mean, don't have people try to wear too many hats just because you're early stage and you're bootstrapping and you're trying to be efficient with capital. At the same time, that can just blow up in your face if you're not realistic about capacity and who's the right person for the right position, I guess.
All right. Any other tips or tricks you would offer to somebody thinking about starting their own business?
Well, I guess, and again, it comes natural to me because I've been in sales my whole life. But again, I've looked at numerous acquisition opportunities and just a lot of other just networking with colleagues. And the one thing I see, particularly in our industry, that really hurts businesses and that people have the most trouble with is just not enough sales. not enough customers, not enough and so many people say, "Oh, I'm not a sales guy," or "I'm not," like, so many people I talk to in this industry, they're like operators, they're logistics first people, and they don't sales does not come natural to them, and they have all these other ways to get leads, and a lot of times it hurts them, and, so I guess one advantage I think we have is I'm always prioritizing my sales activity. I mean, we've been full at capacity at different points, and I've had other stuff to do, and I'm still prioritizing my sales like my sales act. Like I'm just a sales guy first, naturally. So I think from that aspect of it, like I don't usually have that issue, but so I guess my advice to other businesses is always be focused on your pipeline and your sales activities because, you know, like, that's if you don't have customers, you don't have a business.
So I think it was in the first 10 episodes, I interviewed Lorraine Ball, who's a friend of mine and owns a marketing company, and she said, "You're never in the business you think you're in. You're selling the thing that you wanna do. You're in the sales business first." And that's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
right? You're not in the logistics business. You're in the selling of logistics. Like, until you sell it, you don't have a business.
100%,
So,
100%.
yeah. Well, that's a quick 25 minutes, so, uh, thanks for joining us on the Default Profitable podcast. To learn more about Dave, his business, and get in touch with him, go to the show notes at defaultprofitable.com. Dave, thanks for being a great guest.
Thank you, Matt. I had a blast. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. And if you're listening and you like it, 3 ways you can help: leave a review, hit subscribe, or share an episode. We'll be back next week. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.